Bill Hemmer has spent nearly 3 decades standing at the front lines of America's most defining moments, a calm, steady presence whose face has become synonymous with breaking news and whose voice has guided viewers through national tragedies, political upheavals, global conflicts, and moments of collective uncertainty. Yet through all the years of covering America's stories, one chapter of his own life has remained conspicuously hidden. The chapter that answers the question so many have whispered about, but few have ever truly understood. At 60 years old, Hemmer has never married. And while the public remembers his 8-year relationship with supermodel Dara Tomanovic that ended abruptly in 2013, the silence that followed, the empty space where most public figures allow at least glimpses of their relationships, became a blank canvas on which tabloids, fans, and online rumor mills painted their own narratives. Stories linked him to nearly every woman who shared screen time with him at Fox News, and in 2019, a doctored photograph forced him to address unrelenting speculation about his sexuality. Yet all of those surface-level explanations miss the deeper, far more human truth about what happens when a person devotes nearly every second of their existence to a profession that demands everything, every emotion, every ounce of energy, every waking moment, and often the parts of themselves meant to be held close. The real reason Bill Hemmer remains unmarried reveals a truth few people ever consider about the cost of building success under the constant glare of public scrutiny. His journey began far from the polished studios of national television, back in Cincinnati, Ohio, where as a high school student, he discovered broadcasting not as a hobby, but as the pulse of something he instinctively knew would become his life's calling. He hosted a student-run radio show with a seriousness far beyond his years, engaging classmates and community members, sharpening instincts in communication, timing, and presence, skills that would later become the foundation of his career. Even as a teenager, Hemmer displayed the intensity and hunger of someone who understood that broadcasting was not simply a path but the path. At Miami University, he immersed himself in broadcast journalism, absorbing every lesson, every nuance, every piece of the craft, with a devotion that signaled he had already chosen his destiny long before graduation. Once he finished college, he wasted no time launching himself into the world of television, securing a position at WCPO-TV in Cincinnati, covering sports, a role that demanded quick reactions and sharp instincts, qualities he had spent his youth cultivating. His colleagues noticed his relentless drive, his refusal to settle for passive reporting, his hunger to be where news was unfolding rather than behind a desk reading someone else's version of the story. It didn't take long for larger networks to recognize that same spark. In 1995, CNN offered him the opportunity that shifted the trajectory of his life, transforming him from a regional anchor into a national figure. His decade at CNN placed him at the heart of some of the most defining events of the late 20th and early 20th centuries. The contentious 2000 presidential election cemented his status, particularly his exhaustive and precise coverage during the Florida recount, earning him the nickname the Chad Lad, as he meticulously reported ballot irregularities with a calm composure and clarity that stood out in a chaotic political storm. But his commitment went beyond accuracy. He proved himself willing to sacrifice comfort, spending weeks away from home, living out of suitcases, sleeping in unfamiliar hotel rooms, grabbing meals between live shots, all to stay exactly where the story was happening. After September 11th, Hemmer's dedication took him overseas to Afghanistan, where he reported from war zones under conditions few would willingly face. These assignments were not glamorous. They demanded physical risk, emotional resilience, and the kind of personal sacrifice that slowly erodes a person's ability to maintain anything resembling a normal life. In 2005, Hemmer made a daring professional move by joining Fox News, becoming co-anchor of America's Newsroom, and eventually developing an on-screen partnership with Dana Perino that viewers came to rely on. Their chemistry and professional synergy turned the program into one of Fox News's most trusted morning broadcasts, and Hemmer's composed reporting style, steady, grounded, and unshaken even in volatile news cycles, earned him millions of loyal viewers. Over nearly 20 years at Fox, Hemmer built a legacy as a journalist who prioritized truth over sensationalism, accuracy over theatrics. But while his reputation grew stronger, the invisible cost grew heavier. Maintaining that level of professionalism, day after day, year after year, came with sacrifices that most people outside the industry never see. What his audience perceived as grace under pressure was built on a life that allowed almost no room for personal chaos, no room for inconsistency, no room for the emotional entanglements that relationships require. Despite his public profile, Hemmer guarded his private life with unusual intensity. Unlike many television personalities who share glimpses of their relationships, families, and milestones online, Hemmer offered almost nothing, a silence that invited speculation but also revealed something deeper. A man who understood that intimacy could not survive under constant broadcast lighting. His most notable relationship, with Canadian model Dara Tomanovich, lasted 8 years and reportedly began after the two crossed paths in Paris while she was at the height of her modeling career. Their romance seemed perfect from the outside. Two successful figures, both glamorous, both admired, but those close to Hemmer say that even during those years, his career demands remained unrelenting. The breaking news cycles, the early mornings, the late nights, the international assignments, the mental preparedness required to anchor national crises, these were not simply parts of his job, they were fixtures of his existence, absorbing time and energy in ways few relationships could survive. And perhaps that's the truth the public misses. Bill Hemmer didn't remain unmarried because of scandal, secrecy, or mystery. He remained unmarried because the life he built, a life of relentless commitment, emotional discipline, constant movement, and the pressure of perfection, left small, shrinking spaces where love could live, and even smaller spaces where it could grow. Discovered at just 18 years old by Karl Lagerfeld during a chance trip to Paris, Dara Tomanovich catapulted almost overnight into the rarefied world of elite fashion, becoming the face of Chloe and spending 5 intense years carefully crafting a portfolio that would place her among the most recognizable models of her time, working with L'Oréal, appearing in British Vogue and Marie Claire, and effortlessly moving in glamorous circles that existed galaxies away from the serious, rigorously disciplined universe Bill Hemmer inhabited as a rising journalist. Their unexpected connection brought a level of sparkle and glamour into Hemmer's otherwise private, low-profile life, creating a relationship built on contrast yet sustained by a quiet bond that lasted 8 full years. During their time together, the two attended events, appeared at functions, and navigated public spaces side by side, but they consistently refused to speak publicly about their relationship, offering no interviews, social media posts, or statements, choosing instead a level of privacy rarely seen among high-profile couples. Friends described them as a pair defined by opposites. Her world was drenched in fashion shows, international photo shoots, and haute couture, while his revolved around breaking news cycles, political coverage, and the unpredictable pace of global journalism. Yet for nearly a decade, they made the delicate balance work. And then, in 2013, without warning or explanation, it ended. No public statement, no carefully crafted announcement about parting ways, no vague promises about remaining friends, just silence. A relationship that had quietly grounded Hemmer's personal life vanished from public view as though it had never existed. Soon after their breakup, Tomanovich's DUI arrest brought renewed media attention, with tabloids dissecting her life, analyzing her social circles, and inevitably dredging up her history with Hemmer. For a man who valued privacy so intensely, seeing a past relationship paraded through gossip headlines likely reaffirmed every instinct he had about guarding his personal life with iron walls. What ends an 8-year relationship? Those close to the situation quietly hinted that the brutal, relentless demands of their careers created a divide neither could bridge. Hemmer's schedule required constant travel. Hurricanes meant extended assignments in Florida. Elections meant weeks covering conventions. And international crises could pull him out of the country with mere hours' notice. Tomanovich's modeling career, though less geographically chaotic, demanded its own form of constant mobility and emotional availability. But some Fox colleagues noticed an even deeper shift. At the time of the breakup, Hemmer was stepping into heavier responsibilities at the network. His commitment to being available for breaking news at any hour meant his personal life had to operate on a timeline that could collapse or change without warning. For Hemmer, that relationship marked the final time he ever publicly acknowledged a romantic partner. After 2013, he withdrew even further into his private world, never again confirming any relationship, never appearing publicly with a partner, never offering even subtle hints about his personal life. His silence became a defining part of his identity, aligning with his reputation as a journalist who puts the story first and himself second. But that silence created a vacuum that speculation eagerly filled. Fans and observers began theorizing endlessly about his bachelor status, wondering whether his devotion to journalism and the intensity of his career explain his continued single life. The absence of any confirmed relationship after Tomanovich provided fertile ground for rumors, attaching him to nearly every woman he appeared beside. Sandra Smith, his former co-anchor on America's Newsroom, became one of the most persistent targets of speculation simply because of their strong on-air chemistry. Rumors so widespread that outlets eventually had to remind viewers that Smith is happily married to marketing professional John Connolly, with whom she has children. The rumors persisted despite lacking any factual basis. Then came similar whispers about Megyn Kelly. Because of their friendly on-air interactions during her years at Fox News, the public imagination quickly spun their rapport into something romantic. Both Kelly and Hemmer dismissed these rumors, explaining that their relationship was rooted purely in mutual professional respect, yet even their clear denials barely dented the ongoing speculation. The public seemed unwilling to believe that two successful, charismatic television personalities could simply be colleagues. His partnership with Dana Perino generated perhaps the most enduring wave of rumors. As co-anchors of America's Newsroom, Hemmer and Perino spent hours each day together, developing a seamless shorthand, an easy rapport, and the kind of warm banter that viewers found magnetic. Their chemistry sparked countless assumptions that something romantic must be happening behind the scenes. Perino, who is married, has never dignified the rumors with a response. Hemmer similarly remained silent, allowing their professionalism to speak louder than speculation. And still, the whispers continued. In February 2019, Hemmer was photographed sitting near Marla Maples during New York Fashion Week, and the tabloids instantly erupted. Maples, known for her marriage to Donald Trump from 1993 to 1999, was seated near Hemmer in a way that suggested the two were part of the same social group at the event. Media outlets dissected the seating arrangement, analyzed their body language, and speculated endlessly about whether they were romantically involved. Yet, just like every previous rumor, nothing came from it. No confirmation, no follow-up sightings, no evidence of any relationship. The speculation fizzled into the same emptiness it sprang from. But then, in 2019 came the incident that forced Hemmer, for the first and only time, to break his silence about his personal life publicly, an incident that would finally reveal something much deeper about the real reason he keeps his heart locked away from the world. When a shirtless photograph circulated online claiming to show Bill Hemmer, it ignited a storm of speculation that quickly spiraled far beyond the image itself, fueling conversations about his sexuality and prompting whisper campaigns that stretched through social media, blogs, and even mainstream outlets. The picture was eventually exposed as a doctored image, originally featuring Tiger Woods. But the damage had already embedded itself into public consciousness, turning Hemmer into the unwilling center of scrutiny he had spent his entire life trying to avoid. That single manipulated photograph opened the floodgates, encouraging commentators to question whether his private life, especially the absence of public relationships since his breakup with Dara Tomanovich, meant he was hiding something. A media outlet ultimately ran a piece clearly affirming Hemmer was heterosexual after he officially reported the doctored photo to authorities, and in one of the rarest moments in his career, Hemmer made an on-air comment referencing a girlfriend, seemingly trying to quiet the rumors before they grew even more invasive. But the way he delivered that remark, without offering a name, without providing any details, without giving even the faintest confirmation of a current relationship, made it clear that he wasn't revealing intimacy, he was simply setting the record straight to stop the speculation from becoming harmful. The pattern in all these rumors tells a deeper story about how the public reacts to silence. Every alleged romantic connection involves a professional colleague or a woman he happened to be photographed near at a public event, never supported by evidence of dates, shared vacations, romantic dinners, or even casual outings. With Hemmer offering no personal information, the rumor mill runs wild on proximity alone, filling the vacuum created by his privacy with narratives that say more about public obsession than about Hemmer himself. In interviews over the years, Hemmer has hinted at the demanding nature of his work, subtly acknowledging that the unpredictable reality of being a breaking news anchor often leaves little space for personal commitments. The constant travel, relentless hours, and emotional toll of covering national tragedies, wars, natural disasters, and political chaos all contribute to a lifestyle uniquely incompatible with traditional relationships. His dedication to journalism appears to be the backbone of his personal decisions. The news industry, in particular at the level Hemmer operates, requires a level of commitment and readiness that borders on the extreme. When hurricanes form in the Atlantic, Hemmer is among the first to deploy. When political conventions dominate the nation, he is on site for days or weeks. When international conflict erupts, he is ready to travel across the world with only a few hours' notice. And when breaking news hits the country at dawn, midnight, or in the middle of his weekend, Hemmer is one of the anchors the network relies on without question. A typical week for someone at his level involves waking long before sunrise, arriving at the studio several hours before airtime to review the latest developments, preparing for interviews, coordinating with producers, and staying alert for any possible shift in the news cycle. But that is only the baseline. When major stories erupt, those carefully structured schedules explode into chaos. Travel to hurricane zones means living out of hotels for weeks. Political events mean bouncing from city to city, and international conflicts require being on standby at all times. Hemmer has volunteered for these assignments consistently, almost compulsively, demonstrating a level of dedication that thrills his employers and viewers while slowly consuming the time, energy, and emotional resources needed for a stable personal life. How does someone plan a future with a partner when work can call them away for a week or a month with almost no notice? How does one nurture a relationship when dinners can be canceled at the last minute, vacations postponed indefinitely, and personal milestones overshadowed by global events? For many viewers, Hemmer's bachelorhood looks less like a mystery and more like a reflection of a man whose life has been wholly absorbed by a calling he feels responsible to uphold. In a profession defined by unpredictability, Hemmer's focus on journalism has become the anchor of his identity. But there is another layer that complicates the story even further. For Hemmer, the newsroom is not simply a workplace. It has become a second home, a place where shared adrenaline, shared stress, and shared purpose form bonds that in many ways resemble family. His long-standing professional relationships, especially at Fox News, have become integral threads woven through the fabric of his daily life. His partnership with Dana Perino, built over years of early mornings and breaking news chaos, exemplifies a connection grounded in mutual respect, trust, and a deep understanding of the pressures they navigate together. In the high-stakes, fast-paced environment of live news, these professional bonds often substitute for the emotional connections others find in their romantic or social lives. Hemmer's social media presence reinforces this dynamic. He frequently posts photos with colleagues, nearly all of them women, but the images are always professional, friendly, and respectful, never suggestive, never intimate. Though fans often speculate about the nature of these relationships, Hemmer consistently maintains strong boundaries, offering no hints of romance and no invitation to pry beyond the surface. This careful separation of personal and public life has allowed him to navigate fame without sacrificing his privacy, but it has also inadvertently reinforced the idea that the newsroom functions as his emotional core, the place where he finds companionship, fulfillment, and purpose. For someone whose life is structured around deadlines, live broadcasts, breaking developments, and constant movement, the newsroom provides stability in a way traditional relationships may never have been able to. His decision to remain unmarried may therefore reflect a quiet truth. Hemmer has built a fulfilling life within the professional world that has become his identity, and rather than forcing himself into structures that conflict with his lifestyle, he has embraced the path that brings him meaning. Outside of journalism, he channels energy into philanthropic work and community service, further grounding his life in causes that give him purpose and satisfaction, rounding out a life defined not by romance or marriage but by commitment, discipline, and dedication to his craft and his values. Every year, no matter how demanding his schedule becomes or how chaotic the news cycle grows, Bill Hemmer returns home to Cincinnati to host the George Nettle Memorial Bailey Place Golf Classic, an event honoring his beloved grandfather and raising funds for Bailey Senior Living, revealing a side of him that the public rarely sees. A man deeply rooted in family, loyalty, and service despite not building a traditional family structure of his own. This annual tradition speaks volumes about Hemmer's values. It reflects a commitment to giving back, to preserving legacy, and to nurturing community bonds that transcend biological relationships. He has also shown unwavering support for veterans, dedicating time to causes that honor those who have served. With his involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan, Veterans of America demonstrating genuine appreciation for the sacrifices made by military personnel and revealing a desire to contribute meaningfully beyond the newsroom. These philanthropic pursuits show a kind of emotional generosity and sense of responsibility that go far beyond professional obligations, painting a picture of someone whose bachelorhood has enabled him to pour his energy into service without the competing demands of maintaining a family life. Some observers believe his single status has allowed him to devote more time, more resources, and more emotional bandwidth to the causes he prioritizes, freeing him from the conflicts that arise when trying to balance marriage, parenthood, and a career as intense as journalism. In other words, Bill Hemmer's decision to remain unmarried emerges as the result of career demands, personal values, and a fierce desire for privacy working together, not as a sign of emptiness, but as evidence of a life structured around intention. His carefully crafted public image places journalism at the center, elevates integrity above spectacle, and upholds discretion at a time when oversharing is the norm. This choice allows him to focus on delivering news without the noise of publicized personal narratives, reinforcing his belief that his work should speak louder than any storyline attached to his personal life. The balance he has maintained between career, privacy, and personal purpose has been managed with remarkable consistency and grace across decades, making his bachelorhood less a question of what he lacks and more a reflection of the life he has consciously chosen to lead. While some may view his status as a sacrifice, a missed opportunity, or a break from societal expectations, a closer look suggests his life represents alignment between values, priorities, and lifestyle. Hemmer has never publicly expressed regret about being unmarried. He has never hinted that he feels anything is missing. His professional relationships provide social connection and emotional support. His philanthropic work channels nurturing instincts that others might direct toward family. His devotion to journalism gives him direction, satisfaction, and purpose. These components combine into a life that works for him. A life fully lived, even if it does not conform to the traditional roadmap of marriage, children, and domestic milestones. There is a quiet kind of courage in living authentically when society places such rigid expectations on what fulfillment should look like. Marriage, parenthood, and the conventional family model are so deeply embedded in cultural narratives that choosing differently often invites judgment or endless speculation. Hemmer has endured decades of rumors, invasive questions, and inaccurate assumptions about his romantic life, yet he has held firm to his boundaries, refusing to let the public turn his private world into entertainment. His silence, in fact, reveals more than any explanation ever could. In an age where public figures live stream their breakfast, document their vacations, and expose their relationships to millions, Hemmer's refusal to perform his personal life is almost radical. He does not owe anyone clarity about his choices, and his refusal to provide it demonstrates conviction in his own path. The real question is not why Bill Hemmer doesn't have a wife, it's why so many people assume he should. Why must everyone follow the same script? Why must fulfillment look identical for all? Hemmer's life challenges these assumptions with quiet, unwavering strength. His lack of a spouse does not diminish his success. His lack of children does not lessen his impact. His legacy, built over 3 decades of trusted journalism, community service, sacrifice, and professional excellence, stands firmly on its own, independent of whether he follows the traditional expectations society tries to impose. Viewers who have watched him anchor coverage during national tragedies, political upheavals, wars, elections, and historic events have always seen his personal life as secondary. Because he made it that way intentionally, he built his career on delivering the news, not on becoming the news. His boundaries allow him to keep that separation intact, ensuring that focus always remains where he believes it belongs, on the stories he tells, not the story of his own life. Whether by deliberate choice or natural evolution, Hemmer has designed a life where professional achievement, personal fulfillment, and acts of service intersect seamlessly. His bachelorhood is neither a problem to solve nor a mystery to decode. It is simply one thread in a carefully woven existence that prioritizes journalism, integrity, and privacy above societal expectation. In a world obsessed with knowing everything about public figures, Bill Hemmer's reserve stands as a testament to the idea that some questions do not need answers, some lives do not need justification, and some people truly thrive by walking a different path.